Welcome to the City of Meriden Subrecipients Guide to HUD Grant Programs. This series covers the basics of applying for and successfully managing CDBG grant funding from the city. This video will focus on process for applying for federal funds. The United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, commonly known as HUD, provides many diverse types of grant funding to state and local governments. The City of Meriden administers the HUD-funded CDBG program and opens applications to nonprofit organizations and agencies, usually once per year. Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, funds are used to develop viable urban communities through community development projects, including housing, development and support, public facilities and infrastructure development, public services, economic development projects, and more. The city's CDBG grant application is generally open to CDBG projects in February each year. Please visit the city's community development website, linked in the description. Before we get into details about the application itself, it is important to understand who chooses where the funding goes and how they make those choices. In short, the city is responsible for deciding how to use CDBG funds based on local needs, current resources, input from residents and community partners, and more. There are several steps that the city takes when planning how to use CDBG funds. The planning process begins with the Consolidated Plan, or CON Plan, which is written every 5 years. In the CON Plan, the city identifies its greatest needs and develops objectives for the funds. The city considers community needs, existing resources, priorities for funding, and proposed activities to be funded. The city's current identified priority needs are improvements to and expansion of public facilities, preservation and expansion of affordable housing, expansion of available public services, and increased economic development opportunities. The CON Plan includes a description of the lead agency executing the plan, outlines the process of developing the CON Plan, describes its housing and homeless needs assessment, provides a housing market analysis, outlines a strategic plan for the next 5 years, and includes a 1-year annual action plan for how the next annual allocation of funds will be used. Each year, the city develops an annual action plan, or AAP. The AAP is a 1-year plan which describes specific planned uses of funds for each program year, based on goals and priorities identified in the CON Plan. During the year that the CON Plan is written, the AAP is included with the CON Plan. Citizen participation is a crucial part of the CDBG planning process. Federal regulations require that the city develops and executes a Citizen Participation Plan, or CPP, which describes how citizen input is gathered and considered during the planning process. The CPP can be found on the city's website and includes details on how to find the CON Plan and Annual Action Plan. It also includes information on public hearings and public comment periods. Citizens are encouraged to participate in public hearings and provide feedback on proposed plans. As you consider applying for CDBG funds, the CPP may be a helpful tool for determining how you can provide feedback to the city about the ways that you think funds could be used most effectively. The Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, or CAPER, is the city's end-of-the-year report. In the CAPER, the city assesses whether it is making measurable progress toward the goals outlined in the CON Plan and the Annual Action Plan. This is a helpful tool for considering how your proposed activity will work towards addressing the city's goals and how you will measure outcomes. When you are considering applying for funds from the city, it is important to think about how your project will address the priority needs outlined in the city's CON Plan. The City of Meriden currently accepts applications for public services and public facilities. If your project does not meet at least one of these needs, it is not eligible for funding. To be eligible to apply for funds, your organization must be either a public agency or a private nonprofit entity with 501c designation. You also must be in good standing with federal and state governments and the City of Meriden. Not all activities and projects are eligible for funds. Activities must meet a priority need and fit into public services or public facilities. Public service activities must primarily serve low to moderate income individuals and families, victims of domestic violence and abuse, homeless, and special needs populations. Examples of public service activities could be after-school programs, food pantry programs, programs for elderly and disabled, and much more. Public facilities projects include rehabilitation, including acquisition and construction of public facilities and infrastructure. Examples could include sidewalk improvements, updates to a community center, and more. Once you have confirmed that your project meets one of the city's identified priority needs, it's time to think about applying for funds. The City of Meriden publishes a Notice of Funding Availability, or NOFA, for CDBG projects annually. Application materials include details on all requirements, application submission instructions, required attachments, and a guide to how applications are deemed eligible. As you consider applying for funds, it may be a good idea to start preparing some of the required items in advance of submitting your application. It is important to note that funding is provided on a reimbursement basis only. In other words, your organization must make upfront payments for all CDBG-eligible expenses before submitting an invoice to the city for reimbursement. If your organization does not have the capacity to manage the grant on a reimbursement basis and the ability to document that capacity, it will not be eligible for funds. Please refer to the application document for more details on all requirements, submission instructions, and attachments. It is important to ensure you are only using the documents and forms for the current grant period. When completing your application, pay close attention to the required attachments. All attachments must be included with your application at the time of submission. Among other requirements, you must be able to provide a current financial audit in addition to year-to-date financial statements. If your organization has not undergone a recent audit, you may be able to submit reviewed financial statements instead of an audit. See the application materials for more details. Other required attachments include your organization's bylaws, list of current board members, and all current or proposed staff members associated with the proposed project program, and a budget. Please note that your organization must also be registered with sam.gov. Registration on sam.gov is free of charge but may take several weeks to process. Proof of match funding or leveraged funding is not required to receive a CDBG grant from the City of Meriden. However, applicants who can demonstrate, in the form of letters of commitment or awards from other funding sources, availability to other funding will receive some additional consideration in the application scoring criteria. To reiterate, all attachments must be included in your application when it is submitted. It is important to utilize the required document checklist provided within the application package. The CDBG application document also incorporates eligibility criteria that the city utilizes to assess and select eligible applications. Eligibility for the application is evaluated based on several key sections: project description, agency summary, financial management and budget, and statement of need. Your comprehension of the CDBG program, adherence to application prerequisites, and your organization's ability to deliver are pivotal factors in determining your eligibility for funding. The application process begins with attending a mandatory workshop. There are generally 2 workshops each year held in person or virtually. The workshop is typically held at the beginning of each calendar year. Your organization must attend at least one application workshop to be eligible for funds. Attendees will be provided with an attendance certificate to be included as an attachment to the application. Applications and all attachments are usually due in late winter or early spring. Exact due dates will be announced each program year. Applications must be submitted in two forms, one original signed hard copy and one digital copy. Funding decisions are typically made in April or May annually. Please note that the funds themselves do not typically become available until fall. So, while you may be approved to receive funding in the spring or summer, you will not actually begin to receive funds until several months later. This underscores the importance of your organization's ability to have financial capacity to operate without an immediate reimbursement from the city. You are not authorized to begin your project until you've executed a contract with the city, known as a subrecipient agreement. For more information on CDBG programs, watch the city's other training videos or follow the links in the description to find additional useful resources on the HUD Exchange. On the HUD Exchange, you can find helpful resources, articles, training webinars, and more for all HUD-funded programs. Resources range from high-level overview to very detailed technical guidance. Take some time to explore the HUD Exchange and learn a little bit more about the CDBG program. Thank you for watching the City of Meriden's Guide to HUD Grant Programs. For more information, check out the city's website at the link below and be sure to watch the other videos in this series for more information on eligibility, program requirements, and managing your grant funds.